Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 21st Annual Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame Induction Banquet. We thank all of you very much for being with us tonight, and we thank you as well for your continuing support of the Hall of Fame. We have an outstanding evening for your enjoyment as we honor the class of 2016. At this point, I'd like to ask you to please rise for the posting of our nation's colors by the U.S. Army unit from Fort Benning. Remain standing, if you will, as the colors are retired to your right, as Kimitha Isel honors America with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, it's a great pleasure to introduce to you the class of 2016. Each inductee will be escorted by cheerleaders from Columbus State University. From Columbus High School and the University of Georgia, 2016 inductee Jim Blanchard. From Columbus High School and Middle Tennessee State University, 2016 inductee Pam Carter. From Columbus High School and the University of Georgia, 2016 inductee Cecil Cheves. From Columbus High School and the University of Alabama, 2016 inductee Speedy Gilstrap. From Carver High School and Ohio State University, 2016 inductee Tim Walton. If you'll kindly refer to the program on the table before you, you'll note that we'll begin very shortly with the invocation, followed by the serving of dinner. Following dinner, then we'll recognize various notables in the audience, as well as past year inductees, and then of course, the highlight of the evening, the induction of the class of 2016. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the pastor of First Baptist Church, Columbus, for our invocation, Dr. Jimmy Elder. Dr. Elder.
Thank you, Jim. I've done this for 12 years. I still don't have a cheerleader to bring me up. This is a night of celebration. And we celebrate some absolutely wonderful treasures from our community. We celebrate some wonderful memories. And we celebrate a God who loves us and draws us together and gives us an opportunity to enjoy a night like this. Let's honor him together with our prayers. Would you bow with me? Lord, as we think about accomplishments that happen within our community through the lives of individuals you created, we also are acutely aware that this community is a gift from you. The food on the table is a gift from you. The athletic ability is a gift from you. And when we see it well developed and well used and the influence used for the good of the community as a whole, we thank you for that and we ask your blessings upon these who set the example. As you've drawn us together and you've given us joy tonight, fill us with a sense of your presence and your joy as we celebrate you and we celebrate these wonderful people. We celebrate community and we humbly bow and recognize you as the giver of it all. In your precious name, we offer our prayer. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll pause for about 25 minutes to enjoy dinner. Thank you. Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention? If you haven't completed your meal, please feel free to continue to enjoy it. Again, we welcome you to this special occasion, an occasion where we'll recognize those who have contributed to sports from the Chattahoochee Valley. However, before we honor the class of 2016, I want to express our appreciation to many of you in the audience. May I begin expressing that appreciation by pointing out the Ledger-Enquirer newspaper stories this week. Stories written under the guidance of Kevin Price, sports editor. Stories written by Chuck Williams, David Mitchell, Michael Nizelek. The Ledger-Enquirer is present tonight with us and will be writing a story on tonight's event. Dana Barker with the Ledger-Enquirer is with us over at table number 41, and we just want to say thank you very much to the Ledger-Enquirer for the excellent coverage this week. I also want to thank Dane Young at WRBL TV3, Dave Plata at TV9, and my very, very special thanks to the Hall of Fame's good friend, Phil Scoggins. You'll see the results of Phil's expertise and skill in the production of the videos that you'll see very shortly as we introduce each inductee. Phil, thank you very much. We're as well grateful for having a dignitary or two with us tonight. I know that Representative Calvin Smyrie is present, and I thought I might have seen Senator Ed Harbison, but I'm not sure of that. But welcome, Calvin and Senator Harbison, if you're here. Please express your appreciation to these names that I've called with a warm round of applause. Some 21 years ago, a group of local sports enthusiasts gathered to consider how they might recognize those who have contributed to sports from the Chattahoochee Valley. After a series of meetings, the organization we know as the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame came into existence. It's a 501c3 organization. The bylaws were drafted by inductee Cecil Cheves. The articles of incorporation were put together by Cecil. And the only thing I can say about them was in article number 21, it indicated that there would be no wages paid to anybody, that this would be a volunteer effort from start to finish. And I want to tell you, it has been very volunteer-oriented through the years, and it could not have happened without some of the committee members that make up the Hall of Fame committee. Most of them are present tonight, so if I could, I'd like to ask all the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame committee members to please stand. Please stand. Thanks to all of you for jobs well done. We're pleased as well to have a number of past year inductees present tonight. As I call your name, would you kindly stand and remain standing until all have been called? First of all, from the class of 1997, representing his father, B.F. Register, his son, Lieutenant General retired Ben Register. From the class of 1997, representing her father, Gunby Jordan, Catherine Jordan Waddell. From the class of 1998, Bubba Ball. From the class of 1999, Billy Key. From the class of 2003, Bill Plager. From the class of 2003, Wayne Trawick. From the class of 2004, Wallace Davis. From the class of 2004, D.J. Jones. From the class of 2005, Debbie Ball. From the class of 2005, Bobby Howard. From the class of 2008, James Patrick. From the class of 2010, Greg Camp. From the class of 2012, Thermos Butler. From the class of 2013, Charles Ragsdale. From the class of 2013, Eugene White. From the class of 2014, B.R. Johnson. From the class of 2014, Cliff Rutledge. From the class of 2014, Mark Upshaw. From the class of 2015, Carter Mize. From the class of 2015, Wright Waddell. Have I missed anyone? I take it? Oh, and Brenson Buckner. Brenson, where are you? And there's Brenson Buckner. Thank you all very much. Let's give all of these past year inductees a round of applause. It's now time to honor the class of 2016. Our first inductee was a first-team 1956 and 57 golfer on the Valdosta High School State Championship golf team, the 1958 Columbus High School State Championship golf team, was the 1959 winner of the Region 1 AAA Individual Championship at the Country Club of Columbus, member of the 1959-60 first-team freshman golf team at the University of Georgia. In 1960-61, 61-62, was a varsity letterman on the golf team at the University of Georgia, that is, his sophomore and junior years, was 2001 chairman of the Walker Cup competition at Ocean Forest Golf Club in Sea Island, Georgia, and is currently one of the first tee starters in the Masters tournament at Augusta, Georgia. If you'll please direct your attention to the screen.
Jimmy Blanchard's impeccable career in the world of finance has overshadowed his remarkable accomplishments on the golf course as a young man. Jimmy attended the first 2 years of high school in Valdosta. As a freshman on the golf team, he helped the Valdosta High School Wildcats capture the state championship in 1956. His sophomore year, he and his Wildcat teammates successfully defended their state title. Jimmy would spend the rest of his high school career at Columbus High. As a junior, would he be able to pull off a three-peat as a state champion? Yes, sir. Blanchard and his Blue Devil teammates claimed the 1958 state title. Jimmy's high school resume tips us off about what his future would hold off the links. You see, his senior year at CHS, he was voted treasurer of the student council. 1958 was a banner year on the links for Blanchard. He captured the 1 AAA Individual Region Championship. He also saw his name engraved on the trophy for winning the Country Club of Columbus's Junior Championship. His accomplishments on the golf course in high school paved the way for Jimmy to continue to play at the next level at the University of Georgia. He made first team on the Bulldogs freshman squad in 1960. The following 2 years, he played first team varsity and lettered both years. Blanchard's affiliation with golf has remained strong during his career in the business world. Since 1995, he's been a member of the prestigious Augusta National Golf Club, the home of the Masters. Each year, he has the distinct honor of being one of the starters on the first tee when Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player hit their ceremonial tee shots to officially begin the tournament. In 2001, Blanchard was tapped to be the chairman of the Walker Cup competition held at Ocean Forest Golf Club in Sea Island, Georgia. In 2008, Jimmy was honored with the Eddie Sams Award from his alma mater. It's given to a former UGA golf letterman who's made significant contributions to the University of Georgia golf program. In 2015, Blanchard received the Alumni Merit Award from UGA for his distinguished and loyal service to the university. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Jimmy Blanchard.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2016 inductee, Jim Blanchard.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it, and good evening, everyone. This is quite a evening for me to be honored by this great organization, and I'm honored and humbled and most appreciative. I really have enjoyed the evening so far because so many of my good friends and all of my family are here, and I'm just thrilled that so many of you have expressed so much excitement about my induction. So I thank you for that very much. I also want to thank my family. I had a lot of teammates over the years, but my greatest teammate was Sis, and we celebrated 50 years of marriage this past December. So Sis, thank you. She's been a very supportive golfer's wife, and it's been amazing to me how much she has encouraged me in my golf endeavors as well as my business and my family for all of these years. So thank you, and thank you to my 3 boys and their 3 lovely wives and our 8 grandchildren, 3 of which I share with Cecil, which is, I'm appreciative of all of these other inductees as well, and I think they are incredibly talented people who are so well deserving. And then all of the former honorees that were recognized, Jim, that's quite a collection of stars in the audience tonight. And I'm particularly interested in that table where all the golfers stood up. Bill Plager and I played our first competitive match against each other when we were 12 years old. And you know, in a dog race, there's a rabbit that runs around the field, and the dogs chase the rabbit. Well, Bill's the rabbit I've been chasing since I was 12 years old. And I'm looking at Wright. Wright has the greatest action through the ball at the point of impact of any pro or amateur I've ever seen. Carter, Billy, your brother Jack, we all mourn with you in his loss, but he was another great champion. I wanted to just make a couple of comments quickly about my golf perception of my career. It certainly wasn't a stellar career. Basically, it was a high school and a college career. I played with all-state college golfers and against them. I played with college All-Americans and against them. And I never, ever, from the 10 and under group right on through the college competition, I never was one of the better players, but I was good enough to play with them. And the message that I wanted to give, particularly to the young people, but even some of the more middle-aged and even the older folks here, is that you don't have to be LeBron James to play basketball, and you don't have to be Peyton Manning to play football. And you don't have to be Arnold Palmer or Jack Nicklaus to play competitive golf. For the young guys, you don't have to be Jordan Spieth. You can be as good as you can be, you can work hard, you can practice hard, and you can hone your game to be as effective as you're capable of being, and still it'll be one of the great experiences of your lifetime to play competitive athletics. And then the second message is this, is that athletes have a way of doing this, and I would say if we went around the room, the members of this Hall of Fame, probably to the person, are people who are now giving back to their sport. They are helping with the young people. They are organizing events. They are making appearances. They're putting on training clinics for young golfers. They are chairmen of tournaments. They are members of committees that are involved with whatever sport they are in as a way of giving back. And the Bible says that to whom much is given, much is expected or required. And so my message to you is that if your competitive days have ended, and the great thing about golf is you can compete as long as you can swing a golf club, but many sports end earlier than that, and even golfers, the great golfers sitting at that table and the other members of this Hall of Fame while they were alive were notable for giving back to their sport. And so I thank you tonight for your enthusiasm for all of us who are being inducted, and I thank you for being here, and I thank you for rendering this great honor. It's humbling. It's one that I'm sure all of us are most appreciative for. Thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations, Jim Blanchard. Our next inductee, as a coach, won 11 consecutive region championships, was 1994 Coach of the Year, won 1995 State Championship, and was Georgia Cheerleading Coach of the Year. Led cheer teams in Barcelona, 1992 Olympics, and Atlanta, 1996 Olympics. Was founder and first president of the Georgia Cheerleading Coaches Association, recipient of the 2003 Section 3 Spirit Contributor Award presented by the National Federation of State High School Associations, and was recipient as well of the 2004 National Spirit Contributor Award. Served on the National Federation of High Schools Spirit Rules Committee and Board of Directors, Georgia High School Association coordinator, and is heavily involved in the training of coaches and officials. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screen.
If there's a singular voice proclaiming the virtues of the sport of cheerleading in the Chattahoochee Valley, it belongs to Pam Carter. Her coaching career spans over 30 years. 21 of those were at Hardaway High School, where her teams garnered a reputation for excellence. Her teams were perennial region champions and captured the state championship in 1995. Pam has been honored as the Georgia Coach of the Year, as well as the National Coach of the Year. She was Region Coach of the Year 8 years in a row before retiring from coaching back in 2005. And did her teams ever leave a legacy? Their high-caliber performances got them invitations to perform at the Gator Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Hula Bowl, and even 2 Super Bowls. One of the highlights of her career came at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, where her cheerleaders performed at a number of venues during those summer games in Spain. 4 years later, Pam organized the participation of over 100 students from Columbus who appeared in the opening ceremonies of the 96 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. In the early 90s, when Georgia established competition cheer, Pam was instrumental in organizing the Georgia Cheerleading Coaches Association, which still exists today. The association developed mandatory training for all cheerleading coaches and implemented the use of mats in competition. Pam has served on the National Federation of High Schools Board and Spirit Rules Committee, and she currently serves on the board of the Georgia Officials Association organization. She has served as a national speaker, rules trainer, and interpreter, and has judged at state, national, and international competitions. Pam has worked with the Georgia High School Association since 2005 and is currently the state cheerleading coordinator, responsible for coordinating regionals, sectionals, and the state competition. In fact, since 2000, she's directed the state championships, which have been held for many years at the Columbus Civic Center. Pam is most pleased to have seen her cheerleaders go on to cheer in college and even follow in her footsteps to become coaches in the area. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Pam Carter.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2016 inductee, Pam Carter.
I want you to know, I'm going to confess before I even start speaking, I was never a cheerleader. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I had a wonderful opportunity which almost rivals this one. What an honor to stand with these gentlemen tonight. If you read the newspapers and you read the articles, it's very humbling to see what all these gentlemen have done in this community. But about 4 years ago, I received another honor. I was inducted into the Rah-Rahs, and I know most of you are going, what? But the Rah-Rahs is a national organization which is comprised of coaches who've lived forever and coaches who have coached cheerleading forever. And so I'm not going to tell you the minimum age in that organization, but it is an honor to be a part of that, and it is even a greater honor to be here tonight. It is an honor in one way because I'm representing a sport that few people see as a sport, and it truly has become a sport. It is one of the fastest growing sports in the nation now. There are thousands and thousands of athletes who participate in this sport, and it's just a wonderful experience for the young women and the young men who select to participate in it. Many of our leaders come out of cheerleading teams, and you can often see articles in People magazine that brag about the movie stars who were cheerleaders. But it has opened so many doors for me over the years. And when I was called by Jim to tell me that I'd been elected to this, I thanked him, and I really wasn't aware of what this organization was, if you want to know the truth. I'm so busy with my cheerleading and my university that I work for. But it was a few hours, and I received a call from Debbie Ball. I know many of you know Debbie Ball, and there's some of you who don't. And if you haven't had the opportunity to meet Debbie, you need to, because she can tell you in the sternest voice ever what life is like, how you should act, how you should behave. And I remember watching her do that with her athletes, and she let me know real quick how important this honor was and what a great honor it was for cheerleading. And so I took their word, and then my good friend Jimbo Davis came and picked me up, and he took me down to the Civic Center so that I could see what an honor it was. And as I walked through the Civic Center, and I know most of you have probably been down there, I work there every year, and it never dawned on me to go out in the hallway. I was always on the cheerleading floor. So I went out in that hallway, and I got to see, and as I walked through it, I saw the greats that I worked with over the last 30 years, I guess. Wallace Davis from Carver. I worked with Wallace a long time. If you don't know Wallace Davis, you haven't met a great coach. What a phenomenal coach he was. To listen to him tell those boys off, wow. He could take them out in the hallway, and they knew what for when he got through with them. George Williams with basketball. I mean, there's some phenomenal coaches in this area, and I got to know a lot of them and work with a lot of them. I worked with a lot of good cheerleading teams over the years, and I am so honored tonight because a number of those people are here. My cheerleaders, my former cheerleaders, are sitting out here, shocked to see them all. And you know, they look just the same. I don't know what happened to me, but they look just the same, and they're more beautiful than ever. And if you're not aware of it, I think most cheerleaders have 3 and 4 children, from what I understand tonight at talking to them. They're raising huge families. I'm impressed with them. But their organizational skills that they learned during cheerleading are paying off now. I have sitting out here in the audience just a few people I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to. One of the people that is here is Gary Phillips. He is the current director of the Georgia High School Association. He is the 3rd director I've had the honor of working with. I think Gary accepted this job and was in shock for a few months afterward when he undertook it. But he is one of the most important advocates in this state of our youth and of our athletes in the high school system. And I am honored that he selected tonight to come. And we put his wife, Barbara, to work at state. She's working state for us. So we appreciate that greatly. I have a number of members of the Georgia Cheerleading Coaches Association, which I helped to create a number of years ago. We traveled the state late at night, meeting with coaches everywhere to bring us together. Our main purpose was to educate and create a communication system between our coaches, and it's worked. They've kept it going, and I just appreciate them coming. There are 5 officials associations in this state, and I'm going to brag just a little bit. There are 3 of the directors sitting out here, and believe it or not, they're sitting here because they cheered for me also. I wasn't at their elections. I had no vote. I did not campaign for them, so they were elected on their own merit. But it is an honor now to work with them in that situation. I have a number, like I said, of cheerleaders back here. My state staff is here, and they are just the most wonderful group. We have one of the largest competitions in this state at this time in any athletic event. If you've never been, you need to come in November and come see what we do. If you get there in time, you'll get a seat. If not, you'll have to sit in the parents' lap. We have a huge crowd there, just a huge crowd, but it's a wonderful thing to see. Jeff Halsey's here, he plays our music, and wow, can that man play some music. And you might hear the same song more than once every year, but we have a great time down there. Please come and visit with us. I want to take a moment to recognize my family. I have 5 members of my family who are expecting to be recognized tonight. But I have been blessed with a wonderful and supportive family, and they're sitting right over here. And this is the hardest thing, I think, in all my years of all the speaking I do and all the training and the teaching. I'm not sure I've ever spoke in front of my family before. So this may be very challenging for me. They have been here for me over the last 40 years while I went on this rampage with cheerleading, and they have supported me through all of it. My mother taught me to work hard. She taught me to commit 100%, and she's here tonight. And I honor her in accepting this. Well, let me say this. On March 3rd, I'm almost up with you, Jimmy. On March 3rd, I will celebrate an anniversary. I saw a young man 45 years ago do a flip on the beach. And when he did that flip, my heart went flip, and I said, that's him. He was my inspiration for cheerleading, and he never knew that. But Don and I will be married 45 years. And yeah, that's a big one. He's been a cheerleader on the side all this time. He's had patience, he's motivated me, and had a lot of tolerance throughout all of this. My 2 children are here, Libby and Andy, and they were raised on the basketball courts of Carver. They began their careers in athletics there. They went to all the games with me. I drug them out Tuesdays and Fridays, and they were there. And I appreciate their support. I really do. Libby cheered for me. What an experience coaching your own child. Every coach should have to do that. They teach you so much. She taught me about individuals, and she taught me to respect my athletes, and she taught me to take the time to listen to all of their stories and learn who they were. Andy wasn't a cheerleader, but he tolerated it. He certainly did. And I want you to know that he ended up marrying one of my cheerleaders, so that worked out. So they've been wonderful to me, and my whole family's involved in cheer, by the way. Libby cheered in the '92 Olympics in Barcelona with me. My daughter-in-law and my 2 nieces cheered in the '96 Olympics on that team of over 100 that represented 5 high schools here. They cheered with me there. I've involved all of them. During the time we went to the Olympics, my sister was the transportation coordinator and the meal coordinator for over 100 people, so she got involved. I've drug them all into it. I mean, I have gotten them all involved in cheerleading. But the 5 most important people are sitting up here, and I think the guy at the paper got it. It is so hard to transition from being a coach and an official to being a fan, because you want to yell at all the referees and tell them how wrong they are, and you can't. You have to behave yourself. I have 5 of the most wonderful grandchildren in the world. The 5th one is Claire, who you may have read about in the paper. She plans to be president of the United States. She can move puppet strings like anybody. I mean, she can direct you. She controls all the rest of the group. She's our ballerina, and she started kindergarten this year. The 2 boys, the same age. It's wonderful because they get out and they get to do things together. But they're making their own way too. Andy's my tennis player, and he's following in his daddy's footstep. He holds the records this year for the largest, and I may say this wrong as a grandmother, rack, is that what you call it? He shot his first deer. And it's going to be mounted, and Nanny is working on how we can decorate it for Christmas. And then Mercer's my little athlete. He likes golf like his daddy, so he might play with you one day. He likes basketball because he can run fast and he can shoot the ball. But he loves baseball. So if there are any recruiters in the room, he's only 8 now, but his nanny knows that he's headed to the big times. That boy can hit it out of the park, so you need to talk with him before he leaves tonight. My 2 older girls, Carter's just a joy. Every time she looks at you and smiles at you, you just melt. She's just such a terrific kid. She's already playing state tennis, and she's playing soccer, and she travels so much I can't keep up with her. But she's an awesome little athlete and a wonderful piano player. And my oldest one, I came full circle in cheer this year, and this shows what it can do for your life. A number of years ago, 15 to be exact, I was directing state in Savannah, Georgia. That was the last year I directed it in Savannah. I had it moved to Columbus just in case this ever happened again. That afternoon, I received a call, and we were running one competitive team after the other. Do you think you can make it home? The baby's due, and we're going to the hospital right now. I raced home, and I had every excuse in the world to tell any state patrolman that stopped me why I was racing home. My oldest granddaughter was born. I learned then that we better have state somewhere a lot closer. It's a long way from Savannah to here in those circumstances. This year, I had to leave the state floor. It's the first time I've ever had to leave the state floor. I left the floor crying, to tell you the truth, because it was a very emotional moment for me. My granddaughter walked on that floor and competed. What an awesome experience that was, to watch her compete on that floor. Not only did I watch her compete, I watched their team call down, and it was hard not to go look at those scores. I promise you, I behaved myself that whole day. And I went out of that arena, and I watched it. They had set up a TV set for me. I got to watch it. And then when the ceremonies came, I got to hear their name called just like a fan would, just like any other nanny in that arena. And I celebrated right with her when they placed second. And they placed second to a phenomenal team that's won state every year, I think, for the last 5. The phenomenal team is coached by the very first captain that I ever had in cheer at Hardaway High School. And she's won state for 5 years. Now, we at Brookstone over here that came in second are trying to get her to go co-ed. We haven't been successful yet, but we're trying. Cheerleading has taken me around the world, and it's given me a lot of good friends, a lot of great parents that I met through time, a lot of great cheerleaders that I met through time. And it is an honor to stand here tonight on behalf of all of them and be recognized as an equal with all of these sports. I appreciate it deeply, and I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank Jim and his group, but what a phenomenal group they are. If you haven't met them, highly organized people. I just appreciate everything they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, Pam Carter. Our next inductee finished 15 Ironman triathlons, including qualifying for and completing Ironman Kona, Hawaii World Championship, Ironman Frankfurt, Germany European Championship, and Ironman Canada, Florida, Lake Placid, Wisconsin, Arizona, Louisville, and Coeur d'Alene. And folks, if you don't know what I'm referring to that event where one swims 2.4 miles, bikes 112 miles, and runs 26.2 miles. That's quite a feat. Our next inductee qualified for and completed in competed in International Triathlon Union Long Distance World Championships in Weihai, China at age 65 as a member of Team USA. Qualified for and completed 5 Boston marathons, completed over 60 marathon races. That's the 26.2 mile race, incidentally, in Boston, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, Oklahoma City, Marine Corps, and Air Force marathons. He completed a 100-mile race at Lake Martin, Alabama, 100-mile race at Lake Martin, Alabama, in 29 and a half hours at age 64. Only 19 of the 47 starters completed that race, incidentally. He completed the 65-mile run, 65-mile bike, and 65-lap swim on his 65th birthday in 30 hours, and also completed the same 60-mile run, 60-mile bike, and 60-lap swim on his 60th birthday, doing so in 26 and a half hours. He's the co-founder and race director of Soldier Marathon, co-founder and co-race director of Y Kids Triathlon. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Columbus native Cecil Cheves can rightfully be referred to as the Fountain City's Ironman. Earning that unofficial badge of honor started when he was 45 years old. That's when he ran his first 5K, Country's Midnight Run. By the time he turned 50, Cecil had conquered his first marathon in Chicago. That inspired him to set his sights on the ultimate 26.2-mile goal, the Boston Marathon, which he achieved in 2003. 2 years later, Cecil embarked on the incredible undertaking of running a full marathon every month for a year. Cecil refused to stop with marathons, though. He next tenaciously pursued Ironman triathlons, successfully completing his first one in Panama City in November of 2003. Within 20 years of running that first 5K, Cecil had notched 60 full marathons, 5 Boston marathons, and 15 full Ironman competitions. So what could possibly be next for him to conquer? How about the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii? Cecil was 64 years old. Based on his performance there, he was invited to represent the United States in the ITU World Championships in China in 2014. To celebrate his 60th birthday, Cecil decided to run 60 miles, bike 60 miles, and swim a 60-lap course in Lake Oliver. His commitment to fitness and his community has led Cecil to create a Y Kids Try program at the YMCA. It introduces kids to fun fitness competitions including running, biking, and swimming. Cecil is also the founder and current race director of the popular Soldier Marathon, which draws thousands of runners annually to Columbus at the National Infantry Museum. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Cecil Cheves.
Ladies and gentlemen, class of 2016 inductee, Cecil Cheves.
Thank you, Jim. When Jim called me a few weeks ago to tell me I had been invited to be inducted in the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame, literally a chill went down my spine. I could not imagine being inducted into what I consider to be the most prestigious recognition for an athlete in Columbus, Georgia. And having grown up in Columbus and played a lot of ball as a role player on a lot of good teams, I've loved athletics, but I never really saw myself as the guy. Like Speedy here, one of my jobs was to hand the ball off to Dan Kirkland when we were playing on that team. So I've been around athletics all my life, and to be recognized in this outstanding way is something I'm a little uncomfortable with. But I can tell you this, there may be others more deserving or better athletes, but none are more appreciative of being inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. And so I thank you, Jim. And I also want to pay special recognition to Charlie Morrow. It was Charlie's vision, together with Jim, many years ago, to start this Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame here in Columbus. And we no longer have Charlie, but thankfully we did have him for a while. And so, and it was my privilege then actually to work with Charlie and Jim in forming the Articles of Incorporation and filing the papers with the IRS. And so I never saw myself here 20 years later standing at this podium. And so I am deeply, deeply appreciative of that. I also want to pay special recognition to the fellow inductees. I'm real honored to be up here with Tim and with Speedy and Pam and Jim. Each very worthy. I know some of them better than others, and I've read about their accomplishments both on the field and off the field. I want to pay special recognition to them. And I'm particularly pleased that Jim and I share grandchildren. We have 3 of our grandchildren here. The Blanchards, Russell Blanchard and Betsy Blanchard and Walter Blanchard. And if you have an extra hour, I don't mind telling you a little bit more about them. But they, along with, I've got 9 grandchildren here. And so I'm going to ask you to bear with me because I have a lot of thank yous. I learned a couple of things along the way. And one is that running or endurance sports is a team sport, like no different than any other sport. It's a team sport. And by that, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your masseuses, you have your physical therapists, you have Jason at Ride On Bike and Byron at Ride On Bike to help you. You have a team that really helps you get and reach your goal. Now, my team starts with my family. My wife, Betty, has co-labored with me for 45 years now. And she has been such a blessing to me, not only cooking the spaghetti dinners that I've needed and massaging the sore muscles, but she has been my cheerleader. In fact, that's how we met at Columbus High years ago. We actually met at Richards Junior High in the 7th grade and went all the way through. And so she stayed with me through thick and thin, and I love her, and I want to pay a special tribute to her. And my 3 lovely daughters, Avery, Olivia, and Issa, who are here, and their husbands, Luke and Billy and Ryan. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support all along the way. And then my grandsons, I've got 7 grandsons. After having 3 daughters, I now have 7 grandsons. Lucas and Levi and Graham and Stuart Wolf. The Wolf family, they generate boys. And tall ones, big ones. Lucas is 6'5", and Levi is almost 6'1", 250 pounds, and 60 pounds, I think, now. And Graham is getting there, and Stuart will, too. And then on the Blanchard side, I've got Russell and Betsy and Walter. I got to brag on them very quickly. Russell's quarterback at Brookstone High School, and Betsy just reached 4.5 in tennis at the rating. For those that know tennis, that's a high level. And Walter, too, plays quarterback on his team. And wonderful kids. And then young Josephine and Rand for my daughter Issa. And what I really enjoyed about the family is they have embraced not only running fully, but they've actually run miles with me. Betty, at age 63, she got so tired of me bringing home T-shirts and little medals, she said, I want one of those. And so she went out and trained and ran the Soldier Half Marathon at age 63. So she's got this little medal around our lamp bed right by the bedside that we can look at. She says, see, that's mine. Each of my daughters has run the Soldier Half Marathon, and one of the greatest sights is you stand up there and say, on your mark, get set, go, and you look down and you see your 3 daughters waving at, hey, Dad, as they take off, and it's been very, very special. Each of my grandchildren has run either the Soldier Half Marathon or the 5K or the 1 mile fun run. So it's been a really an experience that we've embraced, and I want to thank them particularly for their support. I have many family and friends here, and I'm going to make an attempt here to say thank you to some folks, so please bear with me. My dear friend Otis Scarborough is over here, and Otis has been a real encouragement for me all along, just telling me, you can do this. And so, Otis, I wanted to thank you. Bob and T. Bowles and Larry and Betsy Powell and Mark and Deborah Upshaw, all of them came down from Savannah just to say, to be here tonight and support me, and I think that means so much to me. Leo and Kay Berard are out there. Champ and Sue Baker are not here tonight, but and Bob and Karen Rosa. But I want to thank them as well for their support. And Sheila Perry, dear friends Bob and Beth David from high school. Bob has been with me all my life, and Bob was a fine athlete himself, and is. But I want to just recognize them for their support. Steve and Buffy Swinehart here. Steve and Otis and I did a triathlon in Florida. And I just remember rejoicing as the three of us put our arms around each other and crossed that finish line. That was a very, very special moment. And Steve, we can talk about the incident and the transition later. Don and Terry McKelvey here. Don loaned me, the first one to loan me a bike to do a triathlon. Went into his closet and dusted off this old bike and put some oil on the chain and tried to figure out this thing called triathlon. My law partners are here. Bill Scranum and Ron and Mary Mullins are back there, Ed and Sharon Sprouse, Mark and Fran Calhoun. You can't spend a lot of time away from the office training, a lot of hours training, and so they supported me in this, and I really appreciated that. My staff is here. They've supported me. Angela Blair, Angela Howard did for years, and Sylvia Black and Stephanie Burrows is out there. So thank you to all of them as well. And I think Joanna Harris with the House of Mercy is here, and Mary Sherman with the Columbus Sports Council. I've worked with them for years. So all of them are, these are part of your team. Whenever you're doing anything, you come back and you share it, and they encourage you. I've got nephews here, Will and Shauna Cheves, Matt and Serena Cheves. The Beck family are here, Don and Tammy, John, Linda, and Paul, Peggy, and Mouse. Thank you all for your support. So as I say, the first thing I learned in this sport was that it's a team sport. And I have so many, many, many memories. I want to single out Mike Stevens for training me and being my first coach. And Mike is back there, Shaw High School coach for many years and well-known in town. And then there are so many runners here who I have thoroughly enjoyed running mile after mile with. Early morning runs. We would meet at the Riverwalk on Saturday mornings or Panera Bread on Thursday mornings. Shaw High School for a while there in Green Island. I'm going to list some names here. And these are men and women I really, really respect who have coached, mentored, encouraged, and nurtured me over the years, and have become dear, dear friends of mine, and I want them to know how much I appreciate them. John Teeples, Reynold Counts, Mac Flowers, Troy Espiritu, Alan Rothschild, Jimmy Brooks, Mike Chansey, Keith Williams, Don Bowles, Kevin Gowan, Brooks Yancey, Jack Wynn, George Garula, Torrey Wiley, Gordy Borcat, John Cobus, Reggie Luther, David Smart, Ryan Bush, Wesley Tyus, Rob Kendrick, Carol Lee Luther, Dorothy Chariot, Debbie Lepscomb, Joni Biancardi, Kelly Bracken, Shelley Dinkin, Joey and Kim Mixon, Scott McCraney, Ed Lopez, Roy Cronus, Mick Kempfer, Dalton Erie, and Branson Crescenkamp. I can't thank you all enough. This is just some of many who have run a lot of miles. The Soldier Marathon Planning Committee has been another group of folks, fine men and women, including those I just named. Really, that marathon is well done because it's planned by runners, for runners, and really it's fully embraced by the running community. So Columbus is blessed that way. And all of those I just mentioned, including Greg Camp and Julie Ells is out there as well, have participated in planning this event for the betterment of our community. I see Don Kepfer out there. Don and I biked the Soldier Marathon course dozens of times to certify it. I see members out there. We had a team called Team Darkside running across the state of Georgia, and running with Mac Flowers for that event was very, very special, and spending 2 days in an RV with 16 guys, as you can imagine, is a pretty choice environment. We had birthday triathlons for 10 years running. And Bobby Howard was in there, Joey and Kim Mixon, Billy Mixon, Bridget Goolsby, Brian Abeta, Shelley Dinkin, Ricky Moran, and Stephanie Burrows are some. And then we train for triathlons. Joanne Kogel is out there. She's done a great job developing the sport in this community along with Charlie Lindsay. And then Terry Hemminger is out there, a much better athlete than I in my age group, and I could brag on him for a long time. George Garula. And Joel Stensley's out there, and Kathy Stensley, and Angie DiMatteo. Joel is my physical therapist. He does something called dry needling. When you come into you with a sore muscle, he takes a long needle and he finds that, and he just sticks it into the muscle until that muscle screams and lets go. Many times I had to go to Joel so I could run another mile, and I thank you, Joel, for that. Jason McKenzie's out there. Jason helped fit me for my first bike, and I have ridden that bike so many miles, and I really appreciate it. And then Byron Thornton's out there. Byron's the best bike mechanic in town. And I have a little story quickly on Byron. I was in Germany setting up my bike in what is called transition. The race was about to start, and I'm very nervous. I'm a bundle of nerves. And I looked down and I realized I've got a wheel. It's called an 808 wheel, which is a deep rim wheel. And I realized I'd never changed that flat tire. Should I have one? And I was trying to anticipate everything. I had a time limit to finish. And so in my nerves, I got my cell phone out and called. And lo and behold, I got Brian on the telephone. Calling from Germany, and a 6-hour time difference, so it was early in the morning here in the States. But Brian, just to have someone like Brian available and to walk me through how to change that flat tire should I need it was something that settled my nerves and allowed me to go on and start that competition and finish it. There are so many stories with these running buddies, and then but to bring it all together, to see your wife at the finish line of Kona, Hawaii at the World Championship, and to hear her call your name and to hug her, that is something very, very special that I will always remember. So I want to thank her again for that. There's one other point I want to make, other than the fact that running is a team sport. The second point I want to make is to understand the power of a positive suggestion on me. And you may find the same in your case. But at age 45, my daughter Avery said, "Dad, you ought to run a 5K." I'd never run a 5K in my life. I'd played a lot of ball, but I'd never thought about running 3.1 miles. And it was a challenge that I responded to, and so I did, and did it at the country's midnight run here in Columbus. But the power of that positive suggestion motivated me to do something that, frankly, has led to where I am here today. And then along the way, Alan Rothschild, a friend, a lawyer in town, came up to me and said, "Cecil, you ought to run a marathon." Again, the thought of running 26.2 miles was just beyond anything I could ever imagine. But it resonated with me, and it became a positive influence. And I tried it, and I found a good friend like Mike Stevens to coach me, and lo and behold, here I am today. And then along the way, John Teeples came to me and said, "Cecil, let's bring a marathon back to Columbus, and we'd like for you to be the race director." And I said, "Whoa, okay. Let me talk to my boss," and we did, and the result is we pulled together all the runners in this community and have achieved, I think, a world-class event that we can all be very, very proud of. So those 2 points, teamwork and the power of a positive suggestion, they resonated with me, and I hope they will with you as well. I'd like to close simply by thanking God for creating this great big playground that we called Earth. It's a beautiful world out there, and and also for blessing me with a body, frankly, that's been able to hold up for a long time. That I'm very, very grateful for that. I consider this to be a privilege that I have been allowed to participate in events literally across this country and across this world. I do not take that lightly or for granted. I am very, very grateful for it. And I want to be sure to acknowledge the blessings that God has bestowed upon me. So with that, I'll close with thanks to the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame with a deep, deep appreciation for this honor. Thank you.
Congratulations, Cecil Cheves. Our next inductee won over 30 professional tennis tournaments throughout the South between 1973 and 1981, won Southeastern Conference tennis championships, both singles and doubles, and was named to the All-SEC team in 1975 while captain of the University of Alabama tennis team. He won the Southern States Conference team's tennis championship, singles and doubles, and named to the All-American team while representing Columbus College in 1973. He coached Spencer High School basketball to the best 10-year winning percentage, 75%, in school history. His 1987 team finished the regular season with a 24-0 record and the #1 ranking in Georgia's highest classification. He combined with Dan Kirkland to form one of the most prolific scoring duos in Bi-City basketball history, averaging over 50 points per game. On February 1st, 1969, the two scored a record 88 points. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Speedy Gilstrap was just as good blistering the net in basketball as he was covering the net on a tennis court. He made all Bi-City in basketball his junior and senior years at Columbus High School in the late 60s. He and teammate Dan Kirkland Jr. comprised a dynamic scoring machine that saw them pour in 90 points between them in one game. Speedy was honored to serve as team captain for the Blue Devils. After graduation, Speedy headed to Columbus College, where he spent 1 year on the junior varsity basketball team. Then he switched his focus to tennis, playing for his dad, Cougar tennis coach O.L. Gilstrap, who also belongs to the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame. Speedy notched All-American honors in both singles and doubles while playing for the Cougars. He was a semifinalist in singles and a finalist in doubles at the NAIA tournament in 1973. In the summer of 1973, Speedy transferred to the University of Alabama, where he had to sit out a year before becoming eligible to play. He was elected captain of the tennis team before playing a single match for the Crimson Tide. His senior year, he captured the SEC championship in both singles and doubles and was named to the All-SEC team. Speedy continued to dominate on the courts after college. He captured the Georgia State Open title in singles and doubles. He won the Georgia State Closed Championship twice in singles and doubles, and also notched the Southern Hardcourt Championship. Speedy was ranked in the top 5 singles players in Georgia for 5 years and the #1 doubles player in the Peach State 3 times. Speedy played professionally for 6 years, winning over 35 pro tournaments all over the Southeast. Gilstrap took his finesse on the courts and applied them to coaching at both Brookstone and Spencer High Schools. He was at Brookstone from 1976 to 1983, coaching tennis and basketball. Speedy was named Region Tennis Coach of the Year 7 times. He left the Cougars to teach and coach at Spencer High School. His Greenway basketball teams climbed steadily in the state rankings. In 1987, they were undefeated and ranked #1 heading into the state tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Speedy Gilstrap.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2016 inductee, Speedy Gilstrap.
Thank you, Tim. Cecil, I don't know how you do all that stuff. I mean, somebody stick a needle in your, golly. Jim Andrews stuck a needle in my ankle, got about a ½ inch down there, and I kicked him with one foot and tried to jack him with my fist. I mean, that's incredible. And I'm pleased to be up here on the stage with all of you. In the Georgia Open, probably 1979, hot day, downtown Atlanta, Bitsy Grant Tennis Center. I was playing some younger guy, All-American University of Texas, and I wasn't old yet, but I could hear it coming. And I was having trouble holding on the rackets, and you get about 90 seconds to change sides from one side of the court to the other. And I was trying to rewrap my grip on the racket, and I was looking for a dry shirt, and I couldn't drink enough water. About that time, the umpire of the match, this wonderful lady, Natalie Cohen, who ruled Georgia tennis for decades, said into her microphone, "Players now have 30 seconds to resume play." I looked up, I said, "Miss Natalie, it's brutal down here." I said, "My goodness, I can't hold on my racket, I can't breathe, I can't get enough water." And she put her hand over the microphone Said, Mr. Gilstrap, I agree with you 100%. This may be the hottest day I've seen in Atlanta in 74 years. Players now have 10 seconds. I hope Mr. White doesn't say, inductee, you now have 10 seconds. We moved, Mother and Dad and I, 7 times from the time I was 6 years old till I was 16. And I think it's a great testament to what wonderful parents my mom and dad were, in that each place we left, I felt like was the greatest place a person could live. And it was pretty much the same thing wherever we went, church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and everything else was sports. The school thrown in every now and then, but mostly sports. And we had, I had the greatest mentor anyone could have and the greatest playmate. My dad had so much energy and enthusiasm for whatever he was doing, you just kind of got drawn into it. And it was never, you got to do this, or we're doing this, or it was always, I'm going to go do this. If you'd like to come on. And I mostly did, and it was a lot of fun. And we finally, the last place we moved as I was growing up was here, and I was very lucky to have Coach Joe Sparks as my basketball coach, and even luckier to work for him for 7 years at Brookstone. And I got to play with the greatest high school basketball player in Columbus history, and Dan Kirkland, for 2 years, and practiced with him every day. But when I was 20 years old, I still thought I could play basketball, and I was probably the only one that thought that. And a nice tennis pro in town, a guy named Rob Cadwallader, called me aside, and he said, Speedy, he said, you basketball, I don't see it. I guess you do, but you're not a good tennis player right now, but you could be. He said, I think you need to give it a chance to see if you can play tennis or not. And I thought about it for a little bit and talked over with my dad and made up a little chart of what I needed to do. And Rob said, you'll meet people that you never will get to meet their whole life through tennis. And he said, you may get good enough where you can travel around and go to some good places. And so I went down to an acquaintance of mine who became my great and good friend, Randy Scott. He was a tennis pro at Lake Bottom, and he was the best tennis player in town at that time in the mid-'70s, and told him my plan, and he was already a good player, and I was trying to get there. And try this on now, for the next 6 months, 180 days, Randy and I hit tennis balls together, 162 of them. I kind of got tired of, no, not really, but we hit or played with each other tennis ball, or sometimes we would practice with each other and go play against somebody else on the same day. Sometimes it was 12:30 in the morning at Columbus College. We'd set up a net inside to go practice. And that led to a good year at Columbus College there, my last year, and I got the scholarship to Alabama, and Rob turned out to be right. Things were nice here, but it really opened up once I got away. One day at Alabama, I was walking into the training room, and you had to kind of time it when you got there because you didn't want to be in the training room if you were a tennis player or a golfer or a swimmer when the football players were still there. So I had to kind of, especially defensive linemen. And so I tried to time it where there wouldn't be any people there, and sure enough, there were not. I walked in the training room, and it was probably a third of the size of the room here. It was very big. And a couple of trainers were over there and looked in the back where the Whirlpool tubs were. And the way they did it, they had about 8 or 10 individual Whirlpool tubs, and there were 2 guys in there. One of them had his back to me, and the other one was my roommate, and he was from Panama. And he waved me over and said, hey, roomie, come here. I want you to meet my new friend. And, I walked on back, and the guy stood up, went, at Alabama, you didn't wear a bathing suit when you got in the hot tub. So I recognized the stooped shoulders when he stood up, and he turned around. And he stuck his hand out and said, hi, I'm Joe Namath. And I thought, yes, you are. I shook his hand, and we went on about our business. My roommate and I made darn sure that for the next 3 or 4 weeks, we were in there at that same time. And sure enough, Joe showed up 4 or 5 times. He turned out to be a decent kind of guy. He seemed interested in the Alabama tennis program. And when I look back on that and think about it, when Joe stood up and turned around and I shook his hand, I hope I was looking at his face. I had another interesting encounter. We were coming back one time from a tennis tournament that we had won over at Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. And we got back at probably about 1:30 in the morning, and as we pulled in the Coleman Coliseum, which was only a few hundred yards from our dorm, the coach reached under the seat and said, "Speedy, would you please take this trophy to Coach Bryant tomorrow?" Got out of the car and had the trophy, and me and my teammates were walking back and forth from the Coliseum back to the dorm. I had the trophy under my arm like a football. Started doing zigzags in and out of my teammates. One of them said, "You acting like an idiot. What's going on?" I said, "I'm going to see the bear." And he said, "You'll never get in to see him." Said, "I mean, you got to stop by secretary. You've got to go see Coach Bailey. He was the assistant athletic director before you get to see Coach Bryant." That didn't bother me, so I don't remember sleeping much that night, but I do remember waking up at 5:45 with the trophy still in my hands, sitting on the edge of the bed, and my roommate turned over and said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm taking this to Coach Bryant." And he just shook his head and rolled over. So a little before 6 in the morning, I'm walking across the parking lot where we'd just left about 4 or 5 hours before. And I knew that Coach Bryant would be at the Coliseum. He was always the first one there. I mean, the assistant coaches may get there at 6:15 or 6:30, but his was the first car in the parking lot. So I went up to the office, walked upstairs very quietly. Nobody was there except in his office, and he did not have the lights on. He had 2 lamps. And he was sitting there with his glasses. I can't do that anyway. Had him sitting on his nose. And I stood there for at least a minute, getting ready to knock on the door. And about the time I got ready to knock, he looked up and said, "Can I help you?" And I stepped in. I said, "Coach, I'm Speedy Gilstrap, and on behalf of the tennis team, I would like to present you with this trophy that we won at Hattiesburg." He stood up. He said, "I know who you are, son." That's enough right there. But and he waved me over, and he said, "Look here." In his office, he had his desk, and right behind his desk was a big picture window where you could see the football practice fields, the tennis courts, the baseball field. He said, "I watch y'all practice every day." He said, "I know how hard you work. Please tell Coach McLean and the fellows, congratulations, and keep up the good work." And he shook my hand, and took the trophy, and I don't remember how I got back to the dorm, but I did get back there. After Alabama, I was so very fortunate to get to play the Southern Circuit in tennis. And I was also very fortunate that I had a headmaster at Brookstone that would let me leave early sometimes and come back later to play those tournaments. And so Randy and I, for several years, would travel around, and we would go to wherever the tournament was, and it was all over the South. Jackson and Birmingham and Mobile and Montgomery and Atlanta and Savannah and Raleigh. And I got more recognition as a doubles player the first year or so than I ever did for singles. Randy was already a good singles and doubles player. I had to get a little bit better before I became accomplished in singles. And Randy and I had some success. One of them was probably the best win we ever had was at the Southern Championships in Raleigh. And people came from all over to play there. McEnroe won it. Connors had won it. They came from Miami. They came as far away as New York City to play in the Southern Championships. Well, Randy and I were having a good tournament. We won a couple of rounds. In the quarterfinals, we played the number 1 seeded team in the South and the number 1 ranked team in the tournament, and we beat them. That pretty heady stuff for a couple of boys from Lake Bottom. But we had just beaten the number 1 seed, which meant we had to play the semifinals the next day. So we're playing 2 brothers from, they didn't speak the same language, but they're probably Colombia or Brazil, somewhere like that. And one of them was a kind of a finesse player, and one of them was a big power player. And we won the first set. They won the second set. We're playing the third set to see who gets to go play in the finals. And one guy, the bigger of the 2 that hit the ball really hard, was wearing my serve out. And I said, well, I had no idea what to do. We're handling Randy's serve pretty easy. We're returning serve real good, but I could not figure that guy out. So Randy came back, and I said, what do you think, partner? And he said, let's confuse him. I said, all right. He said, I'm going to cross on your serve. You're going to poach. I'm going to serve it, and he's going to cross on the net and try to knock the ball away, which sounded great to me. I said, go confuse him. So I put my best serve in, hard as I could hit it. That guy hit it back twice as hard. Luckily for Randy, it missed him. And I never saw it. But if us four had formed a quartet, that guy would have sung bass and I would have sung soprano. And so I'm on the court there, and it seldom happens in tennis, especially professional tennis, but both of our opponents came to our side. And finally, after a minute or two, I could breathe again and went back. And so Randy came back and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, let's don't confuse them anymore. I'm going to do just a brief name dropping just for a second to say something else in just a minute. Rob Cadwallader proved very true that I would never see people that I wouldn't ordinarily see except for tennis. And if any of you, I know it probably comes up a lot in your conversation, but if anybody ever asks you, does anybody from Columbus, Georgia ever beaten Jimmy Connors? He was the #1 player in the world back when we were playing in the 70s. And you can tell them with full authority, look them in the eye and tell them the truth. Yeah, there's a guy named Gilstrap down in Columbus that has beaten Jimmy Connors at a tennis tournament. Now, if you want to complete the story, you can tell them I beat him in golf. But I did beat him. I got to work out and have lunch with one of the finest gentlemen that's ever played tennis, a man named Ken Rosewall. They said he had the greatest backhand in the history of tennis, and I had a workout with him, just a wonderful man. Coach Bobby Dodd, I mean, I was his man for about 3 or 4 months. What he would do, he was a great competitor and a very good tennis player. He loved to play doubles, and he picked me for about 4 or 5 months to be his partner. And I would go to Atlanta on weekends, and we would just play whoever showed up, and we always won until that match we didn't win. And that was the last time that we ever played together. Coach Dodd liked to win every time, and you know, so I got to play with those people. I said that to say I met wonderful people playing tennis, some of whom were famous. But the best people I met playing tennis were from Columbus, Georgia. And the people that I met when I was 20 years old, when I first tried to start getting good in tennis, those are the folks that when I would wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning because I had a finals to play in a few hours and I couldn't sleep, and I would be in Savannah or Raleigh or Montgomery or Jackson or New Orleans. And these people in Columbus, Georgia, not Jimmy Connors or Ken Rosewall or Coach Bryant, were the ones that I thought about, and I wanted them to wake up Monday morning and read in the Columbus paper that Speedy Gilstrap from Columbus, Georgia, won whatever tournament I was playing in. I didn't want them to wake up and read that guy lost. And that's what kept me excited, were the people right here in Columbus that I wanted to try to please. And they're just, I mean, there's folks like us, but they meant so much. Terry Scott, Judge Aaron Cohen, Judge John Allen, Newton Sharp, Steve Shear, Tootsie Calhoun, Nora Gerard, Matt Swift, Kenneth White, Cason Calloway, Mark Levy, Don Liebern, Jay Pease, Mike Stevens, Hudson Garrett, Jimmy Fitzpatrick, Roger Pierce, Tommy Stewart, Will White, Mary Lynn Smithson, Jay Davis, Peggy Collins, Sidney Flournoy, Robert Schmidt. These are the folks that I wanted to think, you know, he's okay. He can play all right. To the 2016 committee, thank you so much for including me with these great folks. It's a treat. Even more, 2012 committee, thank you so much for selecting my dad. You can't imagine the feeling it is to be in the same Hall of Fame as my dad, and that we're going to be in the same Hall of Fame forever. And Julie, dear, you weren't here for most of this, but you were an inspiration for all of it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Speedy Gilstrap. Our next inductee was a large part of Carver High School's 21-7 victory over powerhouse Valdosta High School, the first major victory in school history over a national power. This gentleman received a full scholarship to Ohio State University, where he was voted Lifter of the Year in the 385-pound bench press event. He was co-captain of the 1993 Big Ten championship team, won the national championship in 2003 as a coach at LSU. His team led the nation in defense, while a coach at the University of Miami, his team led the nation in pass defense, coached outstanding players such as Antrell Roll, Brandon Merriweather, Kelly Jennings, Kenny Phillips, and Devin Hester. He was a secondary cornerbacks coach for the New York Giants, or is rather, and he's the former defensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams of the National Football League. Please direct your attention to the screen.
It started out being just a game that he played as a boy. It turned into a career for Columbus native Tim Walton. Tim was quarterback for the Carver Tigers in one of the school's greatest signature wins ever. It came against perennial powerhouse Valdosta in the 1987 Quad A State quarterfinals. Walton was one of the team captains and led the Tigers to a convincing 21-7 upset victory. Tim went on to play college ball for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was a four-year letterman as a defensive back from 1990 to 1993. Tim started 25 games for the Buckeyes, collecting 159 tackles. He was co-captain his senior year when Ohio State tied Wisconsin to claim the Big Ten championship. Tim received his bachelor's degree in sociology in 1994. The following year, Tim launched his college coaching career at Bowling Green, where he coached the running backs for 4 seasons. After brief stints at the University of Memphis and Syracuse, Walton joined Nick Saban's coaching staff at LSU in 2003 as a secondary coach. That same year, LSU won the BCS National Championship with a victory over Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. From LSU, it was on to the University of Miami in 2004, where he served as defensive backs coach and defensive coordinator. In 2005, the Hurricanes had the best secondary in college football, allowing just 152 yards per game. The pros came calling in 2009. Walton was hired as DB coach for the Detroit Lions, where he stayed for 3 seasons. In 2013, Tim became the defensive coordinator for the St. Louis Rams, where he coached for 2 years before joining the New York Giants as their defensive backs coach in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame is proud to induct Tim Walton.
Ladies and gentlemen, 2016 inductee Tim Walton.
I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee who deemed my accomplishments and work on the field worthy of this prestigious honor. It's an honor to be recognized, and I'm greatly appreciative. Former Carver graduates, Darrell Jones, Nate Odoms, Brunson Buckner, glad to be joining them in this honor. I'd like to thank my fellow teammates and friends that have been supporting me all the years. I won't forget any names, but Robert Williams, and Bobby Thomas, and Dennis Tillman, and guys that I grew up with that are close that came out support me tonight. That basically, in my family, we all lived at my mom and dad's house. We were one big family, so I appreciate those guys coming out, support me tonight. Jody Hill couldn't make it here tonight, but he's another guy who's a close friend of mine that I would like to thank for the support, and we have a lifetime friendship and a lifetime bond. I would like to thank, I know I'm going to miss some people, but I have my aunt, Maxine, and Nellie, and Danita, Michael, Luella, Rick, Mary, a lot of people that came out, Mr. Downs, Mr. Lester, Ms. Loper, Hillman and Teresa basically raised me also. That was my second family. So I had a lot of people I'd like to thank that coming out to this event.
My all-star team, my family, Tracy, Tyler, Tamia, Trey. If you ever dealt with a NFL coach, basically you know who runs the household. My wife Tracy is the head coach of our team there. There's no question about that. In this deal, everything I do is for them. Two things, God and my family is what, you have to have something bigger than you that inspire you and motivate you every day. And my grind and my journey is for them. I never get tired of it. My goal is to be a dream come true to my wife, to be a hero for my kids, for them to look up one day and when people ask them, who they aspire to be like, who their role model is to them to say daddy. That's my goal. And I have a Hall of Fame family, and I like to thank them greatly for the support they have. And like I said, Brunson and my brother-in-law, Mike, he's really like my brother. They know how it is. We're in a fraternity together of who really runs the household and what it is to be married to a coach. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all out there understand that and know that also as well. I want to take you through who I am, my journey, my foundation. I'm a self-motivator, big on self-talk. I'm big on motivational speeches. I think everybody needs that, especially in the profession that I'm in, to be able to handle the cutthroat nature of my business. Not a lot of stability in it. So I learned a lot. If you're persistent, you will get it. If you're consistent, you will keep it. That's the motto I live by. I was taught by my parents, who I think the world of for raising me. I would like to acknowledge them. My mother, Shirley Walton, could you please stand? My father, Felix Walton, could you please stand? I can't thank them enough for the foundation that they gave me. Everybody know my dad, he raised me the right way. I appreciate it. It was tough. It was tough a lot of times. Man, it was tough. But it made me a better man. They gave me the foundation that lasted me for a lifetime. My mom, she glued it all together just like my wife does in my current home. I'm a mama's boy. So everything I do goes through them. I can't appreciate them enough. Coach Davis, my man. I owe everything to this guy. All right? I need someone to help me perform consistently toward the upper range of my talent and skills, regardless of competitive circumstances. Call this mental toughness. You needed this to play for Coach Davis. Sometimes in life, you have to believe in somebody else's belief in you until your beliefs kick in. Coach Davis did that for me. A skinny kid, short, slow, who played varsity as a true freshman because somebody believed in my ability and my leadership skills before I did. I owe him the world for that. And that's where really my journey started, through my mom, my dad, and then with Coach. I want all the young people out here, I want to share some things with you about the foundation of life that I learned, and I just like to share it with you about, the things of who I am and what made me reach the point that I did. It's called the 3 Ds: determination, dedication, and discipline. 3 traits that translate in any generation and job setting. And now was about me embracing the grind that it took to get to where I wanted to go. I always had common sense, but I wanted to make sure I had common practice. Wants show up in conversations, expectations show up in behavior. Those are things that I learned from my parents. I made a promise not to ever live my life in denial. Most people in denial think it's just a river in Egypt. I'll let that settle in for a minute on you. This mindset helped me become the quarterback that I was at Carver, earn a scholarship to Ohio State, and then make it to the collegiate level and the NFL level in coaching. by the way, which is my passion, my calling. So it's not work for me. I have fun with it. I'm one of the most blessed people on earth because I actually get to do what I love doing. I owe this, again, to my parents who taught me to dream big. A lot of people see their dreams as long shots. Whenever the dream is big enough, the odds don't matter. That's something I learned from them. I really wanted to play major college football. I really wanted to become a starter in college. I really wanted to become a coach at the highest level. The National Football League stands for not for long as a player. Or as a coach, newfound life if you're not handling your business. It was all about decisions, not feelings. Intentional blindness is what I had. I never listened to the negative things about my size, my speed, my height. I had something to prove. What better motivator than having something to prove if you really want to prove it? So I became obsessed with training, with working out, with studying the game, with having great knowledge. You know, obsessed is the word the lazy use for the dedicated. I learned that it's about your job to make sure your life ends up how you want it to. No one will be more disappointed than you if you don't achieve the things you want in life. My dad stressed that to me all the time. It was my job to make my parents proud. It was my job to love my wife. It's my job to raise my kids right. A long time ago, a story called That's Not My Job changed my mindset and changed my life. If anybody could do it, why not me? That was my thing. That was my motivator. I'd like to share a couple of things with you, a little story about things I learned that started with my foundation and my background. Story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. It was an important job to be done. And everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Those are the things that I learned that helped me on my journey. In closing, I would like to make sure I thank everybody that came out to support me tonight. Mr. Downs, Mr. Lester, Miss Loper, like I said, Hillman and T, they basically raised me. People that travel from afar to see me. I know I'm going to be skipping some people and leaving them out, but I'm greatly appreciated. Dennis Tillman, you know, guys that came out. My sister's kids, Mike, Nana, Sydney, Simeon, you know, everybody that came out is a great honor, and I'm very appreciated for it. In closing, I want to share a message with you. Like I said, I'm big on motivational speaking. Les Brown. And I use this every day in my self-talk in this business that I am to keep me going, knowing that your job is year to year in the NFL. Because it's about what are you doing today. It's about win or go home. Even you can win and not win enough, and you're still going home. But in closing, I'd like to share this little message with you, especially for all the young kids that are striving to be the best you can be. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it, give up your time, peace, and sleep for it. If all you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and grind for it, plan for it and lose all your fears of the opposition for it, if you go after that thing with all your capacity, strength, hope, and great tenacity, if things don't work out the first time and you promise not to sweat it, keep grinding. I promise you, God will help you get it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and congratulations, Tim Walton. Ladies and gentlemen, it would not seem appropriate to me tonight if we didn't pause and recognize that we lost three distinguished past year inductees recently. Those three being Chuck Hurston, Jack Key Jr., and most recently Joe Harrell. It would seem appropriate that we pause now for a moment or two of silence in memory of these past year friends and inductees. Will you join with me in a moment of silence? Thank you. In closing, I'd like to share just a thought or two with you. There's at least one graphic measure by which we distinguish the great men and women of the Chattahoochee Valley, and that is, in our opinion, the Chattahoochee Valley Sports Hall of Fame. While it's physically located at the Civic Center, perhaps more importantly, it's located in our hearts. In it are 102 individuals. Tonight, we added 5 more. We received them in large part because they were visionaries of perfection. They acted nobly, they acted with purpose of mind and purpose of body. Whether taken individually or collectively, we submit that they've had a tremendous impact on our quality of life in the Chattahoochee Valley. Therefore, it seems even more appropriate that before we adjourn, that we give one final round of applause to the class of 2016. Good night, everyone.